We're now on the high drama in the Texas statehouse, which has just voted to send articles of impeachment against Attorney General Ken Paxton over to the Senate for a trial. He has been impeached. Rosa Flores joins us with the latest, along with Scott Braddock, editor of the Quorum Report in Austin. Rosa, this vote means that Ken Paxton, that's it. He's been suspended, right, from office until the end of a Senate trial. Give us the latest.
You know, you're absolutely right, because under Texas law, as soon as an individual is impeached in the Texas House, that means that Ken Paxton, the Attorney General, is no longer the Attorney General. He has been suspended as of the moment that that vote was made in the Texas House. Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott now can appoint a replacement, and that replacement is pending the results of the trial in the Senate. But let me take you inside the Texas House, because here's the moment when that vote came down. Take a look.
There have been 121 ayes and 23 nays, 2 present not voting, 3 absent. The resolution is adopted. The chair directs the chief clerk to notify the governor of the House's action. The chair directs the Committee on General Investigating to prepare any further resolution required by the governor.
Now, as you heard there, the House Speaker specifically said that decision was going to be sent to the governor of Texas, and that's specifically why, because now the governor has the power under the Constitution of Texas to appoint a replacement. Now, before all of this, there's been hours of debate with a lot of the proponents and opponents of this impeachment going forward and explaining their positions. Take a listen.
I'm not here to defend Ken Paxton. And what you're being asked to do today is to impeach without evidence. It is all rumor, it is all innuendo, it is all speculation. Let
me tell you, I don't think today is about whether there's guilt or innocence. It's about the process.
I have heard from many of my friends and constituents during the last 48 hours, as I'm sure many of you had. The speed and transparency of this process has been described in their emails using such words, and these are their words, as being a political setup, steamrolled, sham, political whack job, weaponized political prosecution, railroaded. These are not my words, but the words of concerned citizens. Our citizens are concerned. They want fairness.
We have a decision to make here today. Do we listen to our colleagues, a bipartisan committee that sat and listened to hours of testimony, that held that investigation since March, that come before you, members of the highest integrity, Representative Murr, Representative Johnson, Representative Longoria, Representative Spiller? I've never been lied to one of them once, by one of them, never. In fact, I hold them to the highest regard. I tell you that I have faith in them. I have faith in you. Fear not politics. Fear corruption.
Now, the ending vote was 121 for and 23 against. They only needed 75. So what happens next? Now the articles of impeachment go to the Senate, and in the Senate, the lieutenant governor is the judge. There are 31 senators who will be the jurors, and in the Senate, a 2/3 vote of those present is required. And Jim, this is a historic moment in the state of Texas. There's only been 2 impeachments prior to this. One in 1917 when Governor James Ferguson was impeached, and then in 1975 a district judge was impeached. So a very historic moment. Now it's unclear the timing of when this will go to the Senate, but of course we will be watching. Jim?
All right, Rosa Flores, and we should note we just got a statement from Ken Paxton, the impeached Attorney General, and he says this: "I am beyond grateful to have the support of millions of Texans who recognize that what we just witnessed is illegal, unethical, and profoundly unjust. I look forward to a quick resolution in the Texas Senate," he goes on to say, "where I have full confidence the process will be fair and just." Scott, in the last hour, you predicted that this would happen. You said about 100 votes. It ended up being well over well over 100 votes, 121 votes. But over in the Senate, Rosa was saying it's going to take a 2/3 majority. That sounds like a tall order, especially in Texas.
It is a tall order, but I'm laughing because it's very funny and ironic to hear Ken Paxton lecture anybody about ethics and integrity. He has been corrupt for a long time. This is the recognition of that by people in his own party. And you're right, in the Texas Senate, it's going to be a higher threshold for sure. It's 2/3 of those who are present. Look, you think about it the way you think about the indictments and the impeachments of folks either connected to former President Trump or President Trump himself when he was impeached in Washington. And it works very similar to that here in Texas. The House basically makes an indictment in the form of the impeachment, and then the Senate has the trial. I find it interesting. Rosa mentioned that basically the presiding officer of the Senate, not necessarily the judge in this case, but the guy who will hold the gavel, is Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. And he's the kind of Republican, I mean, ideologically, and the kind of person who has the support of former President Trump, like Ken Paxton does. But I might have expected Patrick to be sort of dismissive of this, but he hasn't been. In the last few days, you've had Patrick come out and say that the Senate's going to take its duty very seriously when it comes to this, and he would not make any predictions about how it might go.
And Scott, I mean, you just indicated this. President Trump was weighing in. Ted Cruz was weighing in. Mm-hmm. Ken Paxton had a lot of high-powered political support, and yet the vote was a resounding vote in favor of impeachment.
I think that the House was already poised to impeach Ken Paxton anyway before he accused the Speaker, Dade Phelan, of being a drunk, essentially. Earlier this week, you had the Attorney General tweet out that Dade Phelan should resign his office because there was a video of him with slurred speech during a late night session of the Texas House in the week prior. So one of the things that's one of the aspects of this is not just the alleged misdeeds of Paxton, but I think that vote also shows you that this really became a question about leadership in the Texas House and whether Democratic and Republican members of the Texas House were going to side with Phelan in that fight against Paxton. So look, it's Texas politics. It's not for the squeamish. It's full contact and all of that. And we're going to see how this turns out in the Senate.
And to that point, Rosa, earlier today, one of the lawmakers said Paxton was threatening House members with political consequences in the next election if they didn't side with him. That sounds like a pretty clear indication of how this is going to go down in the Senate. It could be pretty bare knuckles over there, too. Rosa? Oh, we might have lost Rosa, but Scott.
Oh, sorry, that question was for me.
Yeah, what do you think? I mean, it sounds as though it got pretty rough over there in the House before this vote, and that might happen over in the Senate, too.
You know, you're absolutely right. What we learned from the floor of the House, and this was from two different House members, they said before the floor that several members received calls from Ken Paxton, who has now been suspended ever since that vote came down just a few moments ago, with threatening messages. And in fact, there was one of the members who tweeted out that they were going to ask for that to be placed on the record. And I believe we have that tweet for you. And this is from Eddie Morales Jr. tweeting, "I will be submitting a journal statement to amend charged documents to include abuse of power, intimidation of House members, and Senate jury tampering in light of Charlie Guerin," that is the one of the representatives who made statements on the floor saying that these threats had been made, statements that AG Paxton called and threatened House and Senate members. So some serious allegations here, Jim, regarding these threats. And of course, I have reached out to Paxton's office and we have not heard back.
All right, Rosa Flores, Scott Braddock, a very interesting day, important day in Texas politics. Thanks to both of you. We appreciate it very much.